Laying a foundation, whether emotional, financial, spiritual, or practical, is one of the most sacred acts of trust. It means seeing potential in someone and saying, "I will build here. I believe in you enough to invest my time, heart, and future." You pour effort into dreams that are not just yours anymore. You begin constructing a life you hope will hold both of you. But the Stoics, ever grounded in truth, offer a vital warning. Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." And that's what happens when you build for the wrong person. You suffer needlessly. Because not everyone is ready for growth. Not everyone desires virtue. Some are still fleeing responsibility, avoiding discipline, or stuck in patterns they refuse to break. Imagine building a beautiful bridge to reach someone on the other side of a river. But when you arrive, you realize they never intended to cross. Worse, they pull planks from your bridge to build their own raft and float away. This isn't cynicism, it's wisdom. And wisdom, as the Stoics taught, means discerning where to give your energy and where to withhold it. So in this video, we'll explore 8 types of people you should never lay a foundation for. Through Stoic insights and lived truth, we'll learn how to protect our energy while remaining open-hearted. If you've ever felt drained from helping the wrong person or hurt from building with someone who walked away, this message is for you. Stay with me. And if you feel a shift inside, leave a comment that says, "I choose wisely." Because wisdom isn't cold, it's clear. And today, clarity might just save you years of unnecessary pain. Let's begin. Number 1, the person who hates discipline. The Stoics believed that discipline is the cornerstone of a virtuous life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to expect discomfort, insult, and adversity, and to meet them with composure. Epictetus, once a slave, said plainly, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And Seneca warned, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Now ask yourself, can you lay a foundation with someone who avoids every form of discomfort? If someone constantly chooses comfort over effort, impulse over reflection, and escape over endurance, they are not rejecting you. They are rejecting the very structure that makes any lasting life possible. Picture this: building a house on sand during a storm. You keep pouring concrete, reinforcing the beams, securing the walls, but the foundation beneath keeps washing away. That's what it's like to build with someone who has no inner discipline. The moment your strength is removed, the entire structure collapses. The Stoics would call this a failure of inner architecture, a refusal to erect the scaffolding of character within oneself. Because discipline isn't about rigidity, it's about resilience. It's the quiet daily choices that shape a dependable life. Waking up when you said you would, doing what you promised, resisting the easy temptation in favor of the harder good. If a person lacks this, your efforts won't empower them. They'll enable their avoidance. Your emotional support will become a crutch they lean on instead of legs they learn to walk with. You'll find yourself constantly pulling, pushing, fixing, and carrying, while they remain passive or worse, resentful. And the danger is not just exhaustion, it's collapse. Because a person without discipline doesn't just stumble under pressure, they crumble, they panic, they lash out. And if you've tied your future to theirs, you go down with them. So take the Stoic path. Measure character before you commit effort. If they have no command over themselves, they are not yet ready to co-create anything lasting. Never lay a foundation for someone who refuses to lay bricks for themselves. Number 2, the one who seeks pity, not growth. There's a profound difference between someone who is wounded and someone who wants to stay wounded. The Stoics were not indifferent to pain. They acknowledged suffering, but they refused to be defined by it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not denial. That's discipline. That's the insistence that while life may bruise you, it does not have to break your character. But some people make their pain their personality. Their heartbreak becomes their identity. Their failure becomes their permanent excuse. And instead of seeking growth, they seek something else: pity. You'll notice it in their language. People always abandon me. No one understands what I've been through. It's just the way I am. These aren't reflections. They're anchors. They wear their suffering not as something to overcome, but as something that entitles them to attention, to exemptions, to your constant emotional labor. And here's the danger. If you try to build a future with someone who refuses to step out of their past, you'll start bending your life to accommodate their wounds. You'll shrink yourself. You'll mute your joy. You'll carry them uphill while they sit at the bottom saying, "It's too hard for me." It's like trying to pull someone out of a hole who doesn't want to climb, just wants you to sit in the dark with them. And if you do it long enough, their shadows become yours. Their sadness becomes your silence. Their stagnation becomes your story. Seneca wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage, but courage means movement, even if it's slow, even if it's shaky. If a person refuses that, even when help is offered, then your support only feeds their stillness. Compassion is sacred, but growth is non-negotiable. Don't confuse rescuing with helping. Helping is done hand in hand. Rescuing is when one person climbs while the other clings. So love the wounded, yes, but love them enough to require their participation in healing. Never lay a foundation for someone who mistakes your care for a reason to stop caring for themselves." Number 3, the flatterer. Seneca, with his usual piercing clarity, once warned, "He who is always your friend, who never finds fault with you, who always praises you, such a man is either a deceiver or deceived." The flatterer is easy to mistake for a loyal companion. They're quick with compliments, generous with praise, and always eager to echo your opinions. But their loyalty isn't to your soul, it's to your spotlight. They admire the throne, not the king. You'll recognize them by their timing. They appear when you're rising, when things are going well, when you're surrounded by applause, and they fade, sometimes quietly, sometimes cruelly, the moment you stumble. Their encouragement feels good, but it's hollow. It's not there to support your integrity. It's there to secure their proximity to your glow. And when the light dims, so does their presence. Laying a foundation for a flatterer is like trying to anchor steel beams into wet sand. It might seem stable at first, but the moment a storm hits, it slides. No resistance, no strength, just disappearance. Flatterers fear conflict. They avoid the hard truth. They won't call you out when you're drifting because doing so might cost them access. And without honest mirrors, you lose your way. You start to mistake validation for virtue, praise for principle. But the Stoics didn't value praise. They valued correction. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. A real friend helps you see your complicity. A flatterer avoids discomfort, even if it means watching you self-destruct. The danger of building with them is simple. You'll mistake noise for loyalty. You'll think they're holding the weight beside you, when in reality, they're just leaning on your success. And one day, when you need hard truth or steady presence, they'll be nowhere to be found. So take the Stoic path. Surround yourself with those who speak with clarity, not flattery, who tell you when you're wrong, who stay when things are dark, who would rather offend your ego than betray your growth. Never lay a foundation for someone who only claps when the sun is out. Build with those who stay in the rain, sleeves rolled up, ready to do the work. Number 4, the chronically undecided. Epictetus offered a simple yet powerful principle. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The chronically undecided never get past the first part. They skip the declaration and chase whatever spark happens to flicker next. They drift, pulled by emotion, by influence, by the fear of making the wrong choice. And while the Stoics weren't rigid, they allowed room for reflection, for course correction. They were decisive about values. They believed that clarity of purpose is the compass for a well-lived life. You don't have to know every answer, but you must have a direction. The chronically undecided person has none. They shift their goals weekly. They dabble. They start many things and finish few. And emotionally, they're no different. They waver in commitments, dance around responsibility, and can never quite tell you where they stand or what they truly want. Building a foundation with them is like trying to construct a home on a floating raft. Every time you set a beam, the current shifts. You pour your energy into creating stability, but they keep moving the ground beneath your feet. And in the end, when they drift off, they'll say it was a journey, but you'll be left swimming through the wreckage of what could have been. The Stoics taught that virtue begins with knowing oneself. Marcus Aurelius journaled daily, not to boast, but to remind himself of who he was and who he aimed to be. The undecided person avoids that kind of self-inquiry. It's easier to stay vague than to risk the responsibility that comes with commitment. But here's the danger. When you align your future with someone who hasn't chosen their own path, you sacrifice your clarity for their chaos. You pause your progress to accommodate their uncertainty, and you spend months or years building a life they might abandon the moment it demands steady direction. They'll call it transformation. You'll know it as destruction. So be patient with the unsure, but don't build with them. A foundation requires firmness. It needs decisions, not distractions. If someone refuses to choose, they are not ready to carry the weight of your trust, your vision, or your time. Build with those who stand firmly, even if imperfectly, because in the world of character and purpose, direction matters more than speed. Number 5, the spiritually entitled. There's a particular kind of arrogance that wears a gentle face. It speaks softly, dresses in linen, meditates daily, and yet, at its core, it is still ego. The spiritually entitled believe that because they've suffered, the world owes them. That because they've fasted, prayed, or awakened, they are above criticism. That their pain has granted them wisdom, and that wisdom now exempts them from accountability. The Stoics warned about this kind of illusion. Marcus Aurelius, though emperor of Rome and arguably the most powerful man of his time, still reminded himself, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. Instead, be concerned with yourself and how to make the best of what is given." Notice the tone, humility. Focus inward, keep refining. True Stoicism and true spiritual depth is quiet, self-aware, and constantly working. But the spiritually entitled, they believe the work is done. And that's the danger. You'll hear it in their phrases. "I'm operating at a higher frequency. You just don't understand my level of awareness." That's your ego, not mine. These are not statements of insight. They're deflections, shields that protect them from feedback, from self-examination, from the uncomfortable process of growth. Building with the spiritually entitled is like constructing a temple on clouds. It may look elevated, impressive, even divine, but the moment you try to step on it, you fall through. There is no weight-bearing structure beneath the beauty, just vapor and illusion. These individuals weaponize their spiritual journey. Instead of using it to heal, they use it to dismiss. Instead of humbling them, it hardens them. And when you try to offer advice, set a boundary, or even disagree gently, they don't reflect. They retreat into superiority. They become unreachable, not because they're truly enlightened, but because they've convinced themselves they already are. The Stoics would call this the trap of pride in virtue, a dangerous form of self-deception that halts transformation. Epictetus warned, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And that's exactly the problem. If you try to build a foundation with someone like this, your efforts will be absorbed, not appreciated. They'll assume your support is a recognition of their supposed greatness, not an invitation to partnership. There will be no balance, only orbit. You don't owe your time, energy, or future to someone who believes they've already arrived. Because those who believe they are above correction are, in reality, the furthest from wisdom. True spirituality bends, it listens, it evolves. Entitlement, no matter how beautifully disguised, erodes trust, connection, and growth. So choose humility. Choose those who can say, "I was wrong," who can hold your hand not from above you, but beside you. Because in building anything real, whether it's a life, a vision, or a home, we all remain students. Never build for someone who has confused awakening with arrival. Number 6, the one who runs when it's hard. Some people shine in the sunlight. They're present when things are smooth, when the energy is high, when the smiles are easy. They laugh with you on the good days, echo your excitement, and seem like the perfect companion until the pressure rises. Then they disappear. When discomfort enters the room, they excuse themselves. When you need honesty, they deflect or shut down. When you're navigating loss, stress, or even just the complexity of real life, they retreat into silence, busyness, or blame. The Stoics didn't value charm, they valued character. Epictetus taught, difficulties show a person's character. So when trouble comes, think of yourself as a wrestler whom God, like a trainer, has paired with a tough opponent. Life, in Stoic eyes, wasn't about avoiding hardship, it was about enduring it with grace. So what happens when you try to build a life with someone who flees from the very hardship that forms us? You end up carrying the full weight of the structure alone. The emotional labor, the uncomfortable conversations, the moments of fear, illness, failure, and fatigue. You will be the only one showing up to do the work, and eventually you'll look around and realize you're not building with them. You're building around them. Laying a foundation with someone who runs when it's hard is like trying to pitch a tent with a partner who drops the poles the moment it rains. You're soaked, trying to secure the shelter, while they're already halfway back to the car, blaming the weather. The Stoics respected those who stood in the storm. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask for comfort. He asked for the strength to do what was right, even when it was painful. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." But the person who runs when it's hard sees obstacles not as teachers, but as excuses. They call stress toxic, feedback attacks, and commitment pressure. And if you build for them, your effort will not be met. It will be escaped. This isn't about perfection. It's not wrong to struggle. It's not wrong to have moments of fear. But if someone habitually disappears at the first sign of difficulty, whether emotional, financial, or relational, that's a pattern, not a phase. You can't build stability with someone who only shows up for sunshine, because life isn't made of perfect weather. It's made of changing seasons. And the true test of any bond, romantic, professional, or otherwise, is who stays when it gets uncomfortable. Who listens when things get messy? Who speaks when truth is hard? Who helps carry the weight, not just celebrate the wins? Build only with those who know how to stay. Because a foundation isn't tested by how someone enters, it's tested by how they endure. If they run when it's hard, they were never part of the build. They were just visiting the site. 7. The blamer. The Stoics believed in radical responsibility, not because it was easy, but because it was the only path to real freedom. Epictetus said it plainly, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In the Stoic worldview, external events are largely beyond our control. What we do control, our thoughts, our choices, our actions, is what shapes our destiny. But for the blamer, this truth never registers. To them, life is something that happens to them, not something they are shaping. They are always the victim in the story, never the author. If they failed an exam, it was the teacher. If they lost a job, it was the manager's ego. If the relationship ended, it was their partner's coldness. If nothing is changing, it's the system, the government, the timing, never their own behavior. Blamers live in emotional exile, cut off from growth because they outsource every lesson. They don't evolve. They recycle pain and retell the same stories with new villains. Laying a foundation with a blamer is like constructing a house with someone who never touches a brick, but criticizes your every move. Then, when the roof leaks or the walls crack, they point at you and say, "See, this is your fault." And that's the danger. If you support them, they'll blame you for not doing enough. If you set a boundary, they'll blame you for being selfish. If they fall behind, you'll be blamed for not pushing them harder. Your care becomes a weapon. Your help becomes their shield. And instead of building a life together, you're constantly defending yourself inside it. Marcus Aurelius warned against this mindset when he wrote, "You have power over your mind. Stop allowing your mind to be a slave to external events." The blamer, however, has no interest in this power. It's more comfortable to remain powerless, because power demands ownership, and ownership demands change. But you cannot build with someone who refuses to be accountable, because when the real storms come, when pressure rises, when sacrifices are needed, when plans must adjust, blamers will not stand with you. They will point fingers, and if you're the closest person, you will become the easiest target. Building anything real, be it a relationship, a business, a dream, requires two people who can both say, "I was wrong." It requires the maturity to reflect and the humility to correct. So if the person beside you is always rehearsing their grievances but never rewriting their behavior, it's time to step back. You can't pour concrete with someone who only brings complaints. A foundation demands effort, not excuses, responsibility, not projection, and most of all, it demands truth. The blamer hides from truth, but you don't have to build your future in the shadows. Number 8, the one who doesn't respect boundaries. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." But there is one obstacle that should never be converted into a path: a person who violates your boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are not selfish. They are filters, not fences. They are the architecture of self-respect, the invisible lines that protect your energy, your time, your peace, and your values. To the Stoics, protecting your inner citadel, your reason, your character, was sacred. You were not to allow the chaos of others to corrupt the stillness within you. That inner fortress, once breached, leads to confusion, resentment, and emotional erosion. Yet some people will test that fortress, over and over. They ignore your no. They joke about things that hurt you. They manipulate your kindness to serve their comfort. They take and take, then guilt you when you ask for space. They weaponize love, making your boundaries feel like betrayal. Building a foundation with someone who doesn't respect your boundaries is like pouring concrete next to a river that floods every night. You may build by day, but by morning, the waters of their disrespect have eroded everything you placed in trust. And you're left rebuilding from exhaustion, not enthusiasm. People like this confuse closeness with control. To them, love means access, unlimited, unfiltered, unquestioned access to your time, emotions, and decisions. And if you dare draw a line, they call it distance, coldness, or rejection. But as Epictetus taught, never say of anything, "I have lost it," but say, "I have returned it." You don't lose people when you set boundaries. You return them to their rightful place in your life. And if they can't accept that place, they were never truly respecting you. When someone refuses to honor your no, they are not loving you. They are attempting to own you. because you cannot lay a stable foundation on the quicksand of emotional trespassing. You cannot build a future with someone who sees your self-respect as negotiable. And you absolutely cannot thrive when you're constantly forced to choose between your peace and their approval. Respect is not a bonus in relationships. It's the baseline. Without it, every act of kindness will be twisted. Every compromise will become a cost. Every day spent building will feel like a slow undoing of your own integrity. The Stoics taught us to stand firm in what we can control and release what we cannot. You cannot control someone else's respect, but you can control whether you continue to make space for their disrespect. So, let this be clear. If they do not respect your boundaries, they do not respect you. And no matter how much love, hope, or effort you invest, if respect is missing, you are not laying a foundation. You are building a prison and locking yourself inside. Choose instead to build with those who listen when you speak, pause when you say stop, and honor your sacred space. Those who understand that loving you means never stepping over you. Because boundaries are not the end of connection. They are the beginning of real love. So let's recap the 8 types of people you should never lay a foundation for. 1. The one who hates discipline. 2. The one who seeks pity, not growth. 3. The flatterer. 4. The chronically undecided. 5. The spiritually entitled. 6. The one who runs when it's hard. 7. The blamer. 8. The one who doesn't respect boundaries. The Stoic path calls us to discernment, not coldness, to clarity, not judgment. This isn't about becoming cynical, it's about becoming wise. Because your time, your energy, and your love are sacred. You don't lay a foundation just because someone asks. You do it because there is shared purpose, mutual responsibility, and proven character. You are not a savior. You are not a rescuer. You are not a builder of other people's comfort at the expense of your peace. Build with those who will build with you. And if you're watching this and realizing you've built for the wrong people in the past, don't punish yourself. The Stoics believed in learning from every mistake. Regret is useful only if it births a wiser future. So ask yourself today, who am I laying a foundation for? Do they deserve it? Do they add strength or weight? You are allowed to stop building where your peace is being sacrificed. You are allowed to walk away from what was never meant to last. And you are allowed to start again. This time, on solid ground. If this message resonated with you, drop a comment. I will only build where I am valued. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing clarity over confusion. And remember, wisdom is not in how much you give. It's in who you give it to. Until next time, stand firm, walk wisely, and never build blindly. Like, comment, and subscribe if you found value in today's reflection.